Hey everyone, and welcome, especially to our 8th graders, tuning into today's Explainer. Today, we're honestly unlocking a bit of a superpower. We're talking about the power of proof, specifically zooming in on evidence-based writing and how it directly connects to the virtue of truth. Now, I know what you're probably thinking. You're in middle school, and evidence-based writing feels like, just another tedious school assignment, right? Just another box to check off for a teacher's grade. But we're going to completely reframe that right from the start. This whole thing? It's not just about writing an essay. It's actually an incredibly powerful tool to make sure your voice is genuinely heard, respected, and taken seriously out in the real world. Once you master this, you literally master the art of persuasion.
Okay, let's dive into this roadmap and see exactly where we're headed. We'll start with the power of proof, move right into why evidence earns trust, and then cover how to build your case. After that, we'll look at strong versus weak connections, and finally, we'll explore how education intertwined with morality grounds all these skills based on our source material. All right, kicking things off with Section 1, the power of proof, moving beyond I think. So, the crucial point is this. Have you ever passionately shared an opinion about something, maybe a movie, a new rule at home, or some big current event, only to have someone just totally brush it off? Well, when we only say, I think, or I feel, people can kind of easily dismiss what we're saying simply because feelings are subjective. To fix that, we use what's called a research-based explanation. This basically means using evidence from your sources to clearly answer your research question. We're shifting our mindset from just sharing our feelings to doing the hard work of synthesizing information from multiple places. Learning how to paraphrase so we avoid plagiarism, and really grounding our ideas in solid, undeniable facts. It's all about showing that your ideas aren't just popping out of thin air. They're rooted in really trustworthy information that you've carefully gathered and polished up for clarity.
Which brings us right to Section 2, Why Evidence Earns Trust, Real-World Power and Spiritual Duty.
And this brilliantly illustrates why this matters outside the four walls of a classroom. Because let's be real, this academic skill is absolutely a critical life skill. When you take the time to actually use evidence, you prove that you've done the work. You show everyone that you're a reliable source of information. Think about it. One day you might be presenting a massive proposal at work, maybe asking your boss for a bigger budget. Or perhaps you're writing a fiery letter to the editor of a local paper about a community issue you care deeply about. Actually, scratch that. It can even be as simple as explaining a really tough personal decision to your own family. In every single one of these scenarios, having a clear, evidence-based explanation gives you real power and agency. It quite literally forces people to stop and listen to your reasoning.
Now, our source material for today's Explainer, which comes from the heroesmartacademy Godly Learners series, connects this practical skill to a much deeper principle. Take a look at this quote from 1 Peter 3:15. Always be prepared to give an answer to everyone who asks you to give the reason for the hope that you have. So the curriculum frames your new academic tools as part of a real spiritual mandate. Being prepared to give an answer? Well, that means doing your research. It means being a trustworthy advocate for the truth, and being someone who is always ready to clearly and logically explain the why behind what they believe.
Let's move to and see how this builds into Section 3, How to Build Your Case, Building the Bridge to the Truth. Now that we know why this is so important, both for our future careers and our character, here are the exact actionable steps you need to actually draft these explanations. This right here is your blueprint. First, you state your main idea. This is your direct, no-nonsense answer to the research question. Second, you bring in the evidence from your sources that backs up that point. But step 3, oh man, this is where the real magic happens. You have to explain the relation. Think of step 3 as a bridge. You are physically building a logical bridge between your claim and the truth. You can never, ever just dump a bunch of quotes or facts into your writing without an explanation. Your role is to be the tour guide here. You have to show the reader exactly why that specific piece of evidence matters. And finally, step 4, use transitions. You use transitions to connect your ideas smoothly so your whole explanation is super easy to follow, and your reader can just casually walk right across that bridge you just built.
Moving on to Section 4, Strong versus Weak Connections, Putting the Theory into Practice.
Okay, so it's one thing to talk abstractly about building a bridge, but let's actually compare a failing argument with a winning one using urban gardens as our example. On the weak side of things, the claim is urban gardens improve health, and the supposed evidence is gardens are nice. I mean, do you see how vague that is? There's absolutely no clear link to health there. Saying something is nice doesn't prove a single thing. Now look at the clear connection. The claim gets specific. Urban gardens improve community health. The evidence cites actual studies showing that neighborhoods with gardens eat more fresh produce. And then the explanation, our bridge, details exactly why. Access to vegetables improves diet. Boom, hit the nail right on the head. You've guided the reader perfectly from the claim, directly to the fact, and finally to the exact reason it matters.
And if you want to take things to the absolute next level, you use strong integration. The really standout writers go a step further and layer different types of evidence together. They'll combine hard statistics, a personal interview, and maybe a direct observation to fully unpack highly complex topics. By mixing all these elements, it's like a giant puzzle coming together. You can fully explain something complicated, like how those urban gardens impact both diet and mental health at the exact same time. Layering your evidence like that makes your argument practically bulletproof. All right, let's turn this into a quick interactive review, drawing right from the homework questions and our source material. What is the very first step in writing a research-based explanation? Take a second and see if you can recall what we just covered. Got it? Yep, it's stating your main idea or your direct answer to the research question. You always have to plant your flag first before you start defending it.
Here is our second review question. Why is it important to explain how evidence supports your claim? I want you to really think about the absolute danger of, quote, dumping here. If you just drop a massive fact without any explanation, the reader might interpret it completely differently than you intended. Remember your role. You are the guide. You literally have to hold the reader's hand and show them the exact, precise connection you're trying to make.
And one last review question to really cement these concepts. How can transitions improve your writing? Think of transitions as the glue. They ensure that your ideas flow smoothly and logically from one thought directly to the next. Without transitions, your writing feels super choppy, confusing, and honestly a bit jarring to read. But with them, it's a completely smooth, effortless ride for your reader, making your entire explanation so much easier to follow. All right, we've made it to our final section. Section 5, Education Intertwined with Morality, the heroesmartacademy philosophy. So, up to this point, we've talked purely about the mechanics of writing and arguing, but the Godly Learner series grounds all these very practical writing skills in a specific foundational philosophy. Education without morality will hurt. And while this is a truly profound concept, the basic idea is that simply being smart or being highly skilled at creating these slick, evidence-based arguments just isn't enough on its own. If you lack moral direction, your knowledge can easily be misused. You could theoretically be the most persuasive writer in the entire world, capable of perfectly structured, heavily researched explanations, but if you don't have a moral compass guiding what you're actually arguing for, well, that education can actually lead to choices that are incredibly harmful.
To further illustrate this philosophy, the curriculum cites Romans 8:6-7, which promises peace of mind to everyone who keeps their mind spiritual. The text essentially affirms that pairing this spiritual, morally grounded mindset with a strong education is the true path forward. And the source notes that this is exactly their experience as people engage with their content. It's really about aligning your intellectual capabilities, like your cool new ability to synthesize sources, maintain academic integrity, and build rock-solid arguments, with deep, unwavering moral integrity.
Which brings us to our final thought, and it's a deeply provocative question posed by the source material. What's the point of being smart and supposedly educated and continuing to make bad choices that hurt? I really want you to just sit with that thought for a moment. You now have the exact blueprint to build incredibly strong evidence-based cases. You know exactly how to make people listen to you and trust you. But the true test is how you're going to use that power. Will you use these newfound skills responsibly? Will you use them to advocate for truth and make choices that heal rather than hurt? Because ultimately, that is the true goal of education. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, guys. Keep building those bridges to the truth, and I'll see you next time.